Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are reading from The Carrying by Ada Limón. Ada Limón is the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States and the first Latina to hold that office. She was born in 1976 in Sonoma, California, and raised there. She lives in Lexington, Kentucky. Songs of the human heart in the earth of her hands are made visible in such an emotional, connective manner in Ada Limón's The Carrying. Ada Limón's poetry haunts me, awakes me, stuns me. Her poems seem to be nerves on edge. She is elegiac, she grieves, she celebrates love. She's alive to all living things, inner and outer. I see her constantly with her hands in the earth, nourishing things. A remarkable poet, our poet laureate. The magnificent actors, in order of their appearance, are Corinne Conley, Helen Richman, Kay Weissman, me, Harry Northup. Here's Corinne Conley.
Trying by Ada Limón. I'd forgotten how much I like to grow things. I shout at him as he passes me to paint the basement. I'm trellising the tomatoes in what's called a Florida weave. Later, they try to knock me up again. We do it in the guest room because that's the extent of our adventurism in a week of violence in Florida and France. Afterward, the sun, still strong, though lowering inevitably to the horizon, I check on the plants in the back, my fingers smelling of sex and tomato vines. Even now, I don't know much about happiness. I still worry and want an endless stream of more, but some days I can see the point in growing something, even if it's just to say I cared enough. Late summer after a panic attack. I can't undress from the pressure of leaves, the lobed edges leaning toward the window like an unwanted male gaze on the backside. They wish to bless and hush. What if I want to go devil instead? Bow down to the madness that makes me. Drone of the neighbors mowing, a red mailbox, flag erected, a dog bark from 3 houses over. And this is what a day is. Beetle on the wainscoting, dead branch breaking, but not breaking. Stones from the sea next to stones from the river. Unanswered messages like ghosts in the throat. A siren whining high towards town, repeating that the emergency is not here. Repeating that this loud silence is only where you live. How We Are Made, for Philip Levine. For months, I was a cannonball dropped down the bore, reeling in blurry, vomitous swirls toward the fuse. 40 days with vertigo is like that. My new equilibrium was spinning inside the chambers of spherical blackness when the news came. You, with your wiry limbs of hard verse, inky gap-toothed grin of gristle and work, you who grimly told us to stop messing around, to make this survival matter like a factory line, like fish scaling, like filament and rubble. You who would say most likely this was all sentimental crap. You had gone to cinders, blasted into the ether without so much as smoke. I stood then on the icy hill under the expressway, filled with the salt you had given me. And for the first time that year, my entire world fell still. The millionth dream of your return. At the tequila tasting bar called Izquierda Iguana, where the silvery agave plants were pure hydroponic and upside down, so you had to swerve around them to get served, I suddenly remembered you were coming in that evening, a special return. I rushed to the cavernous loft where the power was all on one ancient grid, so the lights flickered each time someone opened the refrigerator, and put on the white dress that you had once said made you look like an angel, with its real swan feathers and fool's gold. Then I sat for a long time in the night and waited. At dawn, I woke with the feathers sticky on my tongue, and I remembered you were dead all over again. Wonder Woman. Standing at the swell of the muddy Mississippi after the urgent care doctor had just said, "Well, sometimes shit happens," I fell fast and hard for New Orleans all over again. Pain pills swirled in the purse along with a spell for later. It's taken a while for me to admit I am in a raging battle with my body, a spinal column 35 degrees bent, vertigo that comes and goes like a DC Comics villain nobody can kill. Invisible pain is both a blessing and a curse. "You always look so happy," a stranger once said, as I shifted to my good side, grinning. But that day, alone on the riverbank, brass blaring from the steamboat Natchez, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a girl, maybe half my age, dressed, for no apparent reason, as Wonder Woman. She strutted by in all her strength and glory, invincible, eternal. And when I stood to clap, because who wouldn't have, she bowed and posed like she knew I needed a myth, a woman by a river, invincible. The real reason I don't have any tattoos is not my story to tell. It's my mother's. Once, walking down Bedford Avenue in my 20s, I called her as I do. I told her how I wanted a tattoo on the back of my neck. Something minor, but permanent. And she is an artist. I wanted her to create the design, a symbol, a fish I dream of every night, an underwater talisman, a mother's gift on my body. To be clear, I thought she'd be honored, but do we ever really know each other fully? A silence like a hospital room. She was in tears. I swore then that I wouldn't get one, wouldn't let a needle touch my neck, my arm, my torso. I'd stay me, my skin, the skin she welcomed me into the world with. It wasn't until later that I knew it wasn't so much the tattoo, but the marking, the idea of scars. What you don't know, and this is why it is not my story, is that my mother is scarred from burns over a great deal of her body. Most from an explosion that took her first child she was carrying in her belly. Others from the skin grafts, where they took skin to cover what needed it. She was in her late 20s when that happened. Outside her studio in the center of town. You have to understand, my mother is beautiful, tall and elegant, thin and strong. I have not known her any other way. Her skin that I mapped with my young fingers, its strange hardness in places, in patterns like quilts here, riverbeds there. She's wondrous, preternatural, survived fire, the ending of an unborn child, heat and flame and death, all made her into something seemingly magical, a phoenixess. What I know now is she wanted something else for me to wake each morning and recognize my own flesh for this one thing she made, me, to remain how she intended, for one of us to make it out unscathed.
Notes on the below. For Mammoth Cave National Park. Tell me, humongous cavern, tell me, wet limestone, sandstone caprock, bat wing, sightless translucent cave shrimp, this endless plummet into more of the unknown. Tell me how one keeps secrets for so long. All my life, I've lived above the ground, car wheels over paved roads, roots breaking through concrete. And still, I've not understood the real of this life's purpose. Not so much living, but a hovering without sense. What's it like to be always night? No moon, but a few lit up circles at your many openings. Endless dark. Still, time must enter you, like a train, like a green river. Tell me, what is it to be the thing rooted in shadow? To be the thing not touched by light? No, that's not it. To not even need the light. I envy that. Desire is a tricky thing. The boiling of the body's wants. More praise, more hands holding the knives away. I've been the one who has craved and craved until I could not see beyond my own greed. There's a whole nation of us. To forgive myself, I point to the earth as witness. To you, your frozen Niagara, your fat man's misery, you with your 400 miles of interlocking caves that lead only to more of you. Tell me what it is to be quiet and yet still breathing. Ruler of the underling, let me speak to both the dead and the living as you do. Speak to the ruined earth, the stalactites, the eastern small-footed bat, to honor this, the length of days. To speak to the core that creates and swallows, to speak not always to what's shouting, but to what's underneath, asking for nothing. I am at the mouth of the cave. I am willing to crawl. On a lamppost long ago, I don't know what to think of first in the list of all the things that are disappearing. Fishes, birds, trees, flowers, bees, and the languages too. They say that if historical rates are averaged, a language will die every 4 months. In the time it takes to say, I love you, or move in with someone, or admit to the child you're carrying. All the intricate words of a language become extinct. There are too many things to hold in the palm of the brain. Your father, with Alzheimer's, uses the word thing to describe many different nouns, and we guess the word he means. When we get it right, he nods as if it's obvious. When we get it wrong, his face closes like a fist. Out walking in the neighborhood, there's a wide metal lamppost that has scratched into it. Brandy Early Wine loves Jack Pickett. And then there come the hearts, the barrage of hearts scratched over and over as if, just in case we have forgotten the word love, we will know its symbol. As if Miss Early Wine wanted us to know that even after she and Mr. Pickett have passed on, their real hearts stopped. The ones that don't look anything like those little symbols, they frantically, furiously, late one night under the streetlight while their parents thought they were asleep, inscribed onto the body of something like a permanent tree, a heart, so that even after their bodies have ceased to be bodies, their mouths no longer capable of words, that universal shape will tell you how she felt one blue evening long ago, when there were still 7,000 languages that named and honored the plants and animals, each in their own way. When your father said thing and we knew what it meant, and the bees were big and round and buzzing. Of roots and roamers. Have you noticed how the trees change from state to state? Not all at once, of course, more like a weaver gradually weaving in another color until the old trees become scarce and new trees offer a shaded kingdom all their own. Before I knew the names of towns or roads, I could recognize places by the trees. Northern California's smooth-skinned madrone, looming eucalyptus, fuzzy fragrant flowers of the acacia. So much of America belongs to the trees. Even when we can't agree on much, there's still the man returning from his late shift at the local bar who takes a long look at the bird's nest in the maple, pats the trunk like a friend's forearm, mumbles something about staying safe, and returns home. And the girl whose slapdash tree fort we can see from our blurry window, how she stands there to wave at a world she does not even know the half of yet. My grandmother once complained she couldn't see much of America on her cross-country trip because it was all just trees. Ask her, she'll laugh as she tells you. Still, without the bother of licenses or attention to a state line, a border, they just grow where they've grown all their lives. There, a small stand of white pine arrives. There, a redwood begins to show itself along the coastline. Water oaks in the south, willows. Their power is in not moving, so we must move to them. A new national anthem. The truth is, I've never cared for the national anthem. If you think about it, it's not a good song. Too high for most of us with the rocket's red glare. And then there are the bombs. Always, always there is war and bombs. Once I sang it at homecoming and threw even the tenacious high school band off key. But the song didn't mean anything. Just a call to the field, something to get through before the plummeting of youth. And what are the stanzas we never sing? The third that mentions no refuge could save the hireling and the slave. Perhaps the truth is every song of this country has an unsung third stanza, something brutal snaking underneath us as we absent-mindedly sing the high notes with a beer sloshing in the stands, hoping our team wins. Don't get me wrong, I do like the flag, how it undulates in the wind like water, elemental, and best when it's humbled, brought to its knees, clung to by someone who has lost everything. When it's not a weapon, when it flickers, when it folds up so perfectly you can keep it until it's needed, until you can love it again, until the song in your mouth feels like sustenance, a song where the notes are sung by even the ageless woods, the short grass plains, the Red River Gorge, the fistful of land left unpoisoned. That song, that's our birthright, that's sung in silence when it's too hard to go on. That sounds like someone's rough fingers weaving into another's. That sounds like a match being lit in an endless cave. The song that says, my bones are your bones, and your bones are my bones. And isn't that enough? Cargo. I wish I could write to you from underwater. The warm bath covering my ears, one of which has 3 marks in the exact shape of a triangle. My own atmosphere's asterism. Last night, the fire engine sirens were so loud, they drowned out even the constant bluster of the inbound freight trains. Did I tell you the R.J. Corman Railroad runs 500 feet from us? Before everything shifted and I aged into this body. My grandparents lived above Tan Timoteo Canyon, where the Southern Pacific Railroad roared each scorching California summer day. I'd watch for the trains, howling as they came. Manuel is in Chicago today, and we both admitted that we're traveling with our passports now. Reports of ice raids, and both of our bloods are requiring new medication. I wish we could go back to the windy dock, drinking pink wine and talking smack. Now it's gray and pitchfork. The supermarket here is full of grass seed, like spring might actually come. But I don't know. And you? I heard from a friend that you're still working on saving words. All I've been working on is napping and maybe being kinder to others, to myself. Just this morning, I saw 7 cardinals, brash and bold as sin, in a light leafless tree. I let them be for a long while before I shook the air and screwed it all up just by being alive, too. Am I braver than those birds? Do you ever wonder what the trains carry? Aluminum ingots, plastic, brick, corn syrup, limestone, fury, alcohol, joy. All the world is moving. Even sand from one shore to another is being shuttled. I live my life half afraid and half shouting at the trains when they thunder by. This letter to you is both. The contract says we'd like the conversation to be bilingual. When you come, bring your brownness so we can be sure to please the funders. Will you check this box? We're applying for a grant. Do you have any poems that speak to troubled teens? Bilingual is best. Would you like to come to dinner with the patrons and sip Patron? Will you tell us the stories that make us uncomfortable but not complicit? Don't read us the one where you are just like us, born to a greenhouse garden. Don't tell us how you picked tomatoes and ate them in the dirt, watching vultures pick apart another bird's bones in the road. Tell us the one about your father stealing hubcaps after a colleague said that's what his kind did. Tell us how he came to the meeting wearing a poncho and tried to sell the man his hubcaps back. Don't mention your father was a teacher spoke English, loved making beer, loved baseball. Tell us again about the poncho, the hubcaps, how he stole them, how he did the thing he was trying to prove he didn't do.
Against belonging. It's been 6 years since we moved here. 6 of the tall grasses outstretched like fingers waving. I remember the first drive in, the American beech, sassafras, chestnut oak, yellow birch were just plain trees back then. I didn't know we'd stay long. I missed the Sonoma coastline, the winding roads that opened onto places called Goat Rock, Furlong Gulch, Salmon Creek. Once, when I was young, we camped out at Russian Gulch and learned the names of all the grasses, the tide pool animals, the creatures of the redwoods. Properly identifying seemed more important than science, more like creation. With each new name, the world expanded. I give names to everything now because it makes me feel useful. Currently, 3 snakes surround our house. 1 in front, 1 near the fire pit, and 1 near the raised beds of beets and carrots. Harmless eastern garter snakes, small but ever expanding. I check on them each day, watch their round eyes blink in the sun that fuels them. I've named them so no one is tempted to kill them, a way of offering reprieve, tenderness. But sometimes I feel them moving around inside me. The 3 snakes hissing what cannot be tamed, what shakes off citizenship, what draws her own signature with her body, is whatever dirt she wants. Instructions on not giving up. More than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than the neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs shoving their cotton candy colored blossoms to the slate sky of spring rains. It's the greening of the trees that really gets to me. When all the shock of white and taffy, the world's troubles and babbles and trinkets leave the pavement strewn with the confetti of aftermath, the leaves come, patient, plodding, a green skin growing over whatever winter did to us, a return to the strange idea of continuous living despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. Fine then, I'll take it, the tree seems to say. A new slick leaf unfurling like a fist to an open palm. I'll take it all. Would you rather? Remember that car ride to SeaTac? How your sister's kids played a frenzied game of Would You Rather, where each choice tick-tocked between superpowers or towering piles of a food too often denied? Would you rather have fiery lasers that shoot out of your eyes or eat sundaes with whipped cream for every meal? We dealt it out quick without stopping to check ourselves for the truth. We played so hard that I got good at the questions, learned that there had to be an equality to each weighted ask. And now I'm an expert at comparing things that give the illusion they equal each other. You said that our plan B was just to live our lives. More time, more sleep, more travel. And still, I'm making a list Of all the places I found out I wasn't carrying a child. At the outdoor market in San Telmo, Isla Negres, wide iris of sea, the baseball stadium, the supermarket, the Muhammad Ali Museum, but always the last time tops the list. In the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge, looking over toward Alcatraz, a place they should burn and redeliver to the gulls and cormorants, common daisies and seagrass. Down below the girder, that's still not screened against jumpers, so that it seems almost like a dare, like an invitation. We watched a seal make a sinuous shimmy in the bay. Could you rather? Would I rather? The game is endless and without a winner. Do you remember how the seal was so far under the deafening sound of traffic, the whirl of wind mixed with car horns and gasoline? Such a small speck of black movement alone in the churning waves beating rock and shore. Didn't she seem happy? Maybe I'll be another kind of mother. Snow today, a layer outlining the maple like a halo, or rather a fungus. So many sharp edges in the month. I'm thinking I'll never sit down at the table at that restaurant, you know, that one by the window. Women gathered in paisley scarves with rusty iced tea, talking about their kids, their little time suckers, how their mouths want so much, a gesture of exhaustion, a roll of the eyes. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Their bags full of crayons and nut-free snacks, the light coming in the window, a small tear of joy melting like ice. No, I'll be elsewhere, having spent all day writing words and then at the movies where my man brought me a drink. Because our bodies are our own. And what will it be? A blockbuster? A man somewhere saving the world alone, with only the thought of his family to get him through? The film will be forgettable, a thin star in a blurred sea of stars. I'll come home and rub my whole face against my dog's belly. She'll be warm and want to sleep some more. I'll stare at the tree and the ice will have melted, so it's only the original tree again. Green branches giving way to other green branches. Everything coming to life. Terry. The sky's white with November's teeth, and the air is ash and wind smoke. A flush of color from the dying tree, a cargo train speeding through. And there, that's me, standing in the wintering grass, watching the dog suffer the cold leaves. I'm not large from this distance, just a fence post, a hedge of holly. Wider still beyond the rumble of overpass, mares look for what's left of green in the pasture. A few weanlings kick out, and theirs is the same sky, white like a calm flag of surrender pulled taut. A few farms over, there's our mare, her belly barrel round with foal, or idea of foal. It's Kentucky, late fall, and any mare worth her salt is carrying the next potential stakes winner. Ours, her coat thicker with the season's muck, leans against the black fence, and this image is heavy within me. How my own body, empty, clean of secrets, knows how to carry her. Knows we were all meant for something. What I didn't know before was how horses simply give birth to other horses. Not a baby by any means, not a creature of liminal spaces, but already a four-legged beast, hell-bent on walking, scrambling after the mother. A horse gives way to another horse, and then suddenly there are two horses, just like that. That's how I loved you. You, off the long train from Red Bank, carrying a coffee as big as your arm, a bag with two computers swinging in it unwieldingly at your side. And remember, we broke into laughter when we saw each other. What was between us wasn't a fragile thing to be coddled, cooed over. It came out fully formed, ready to run. Mastering. I'm in Texas at a bar with a friend who doesn't drink anymore, and I've missed him. We order food and share and talk aging bodies and Mexico and how the mind goes mad. We talk about a friend who's going blind, the pressure on his brain, how much we admire his fierce allegiance to this world, his unflagging wail into the abyss. I like being at this bar with a man I admire but don't love, don't need to fleece for affection. It makes me feel all grown up, like I should get a good job chip too. We talk about marriage and the tender skin of the other. I lay down my plans for my upcoming wedding, a mountain named after the moon, blooms in my hair, my beloved. We've known each other almost 15 years, my friend, with eyes the color of clear cenote. I trust him. He leans in, tells me the real miracle, more than marriage, the thing that makes you believe there might be a God after all, is the making of a child. He stares at me, but I am not there anymore. I don't say, we've tried for a long time, been sad, been happy, that perhaps the only thing I can make is love and art. I want to tell him, that's enough, isn't it? Isn't love that doesn't result in a seed, a needy body, another suckling animal still love? Isn't that supernatural? Screw your God. He's showing me a photo now of his child, and I'm unfolding and folding the napkin. He's pointing out how amazing his child is. I order a drink because I can, and maybe because he can't. He retreats to his seat. I take a long sip and really look into his eyes. I want him to notice what he said, how a woman might feel agony, emptiness, how he's lucky it's me he said it to because I won't vaporize him. I sip again. I want him to see how much pleasure I can handle. My tongue, a tuning fork, how mute and mirror I can be, even with these ordinary wonders he can't see swirling around us.
The last thing. First, there was the blue wing of a scraggly loud jay tucked into the shrubs. Then the bluish black moth drunkenly tripping from blade to blade. Then the quiet that came roaring in like the R.J. Corman over Broadway near the RV shop. These are the last three things that happened. Not in the universe, but here, in the basin of my mind, where I'm always making a list for you, recording the day's minor urchins, silvery dust mote, pistachio shell, the dog eating a sugar snap pea. It's going to rain soon. Close clouds bloated above us, the air like a net about to release all the caught fishes, a storm siren in the distance. I know you don't always understand, but let me point to the first wet drops landing on the stones, the noise like fingers drumming the skin. I can't help it. I will never get over making everything such a big deal. Love poem with apologies for my appearance. Sometimes I think you get the worst of me. The much-loved loose forest green sweatpants, the long braless days, hair knotted and uncivilized, a shadowed brow where the devilish thoughts do their hoof dance on the brain. I'd like to say, this means I love you. The stained white cotton t-shirt, the tears, pistachio shells, the mess of orange peels on my desk. But it's different than that. I move in this house with you the way I move in my mind, unencumbered by beauty's cage. I do like I do in the tall grass, more animal me than much less. I'm wrong. It is that I love you. But it's more than that when you say it back, lights out, a cold wind through curtains. For maybe the first time in my life, I believe it. Sway. What is it about words that make the world fit easier? Air and time. Since last we spoke, I've been better. I slept again once the pink moon moved off a little, put her pants back on, let me be. Are you sleeping again? I'm home in the bluegrass now, one of the places my body feels at ease. I can't stop putting plants in the ground. There's a hunger in me, a need to watch something grow. A neighbor brought me 5 new hostas to plant along the fence line that shaded all afternoon. As I dug into the ground, making room around the maple, I found a bunch of wild strawberries flowering. I let them be, the heart berry, red, like your rage, the red of your desert, your heart too. My neighbor and her wife bring me plants and chive pesto, and we let our dogs run under the fence to multiply their space. Small beasts running in more air. I have been alone a long time this year. She says when she looks at me, she is reminded of time. I didn't know what she meant, so she repeated, when I see you, I become very aware of time. A grackle now too are joining us here in the vines. They're too heavy for the young spring branches. My man is coming home today, driving 10 hours to be home, and by God, I will throw my body toward him. The way you wrote, how is it that we know who we are? Maybe this letter is to say, if it is red where you are, know there is also green, the serrated leaves of dandelion, lemon balm, purple sage, peppermint, a small plum tree by the shed. I don't know how to make medicine, or cure what's scarring this planet. But I know that last night, the train came roaring right as I needed. I was alone and I was time, but the train made a noise so I would listen. I was standing so close, a body on a bridge, so that I could feel how the air shifted to make room for the train. How it's easier if we become more like a body of air, branches, and make room for this red charging thing that barrels through us. How afterward, our leaves shake and stand straighter. Sacred objects. I'm driving down to Tennessee, but before I get there, I stop at the Kentucky state line to fuel up and pee. The dog's in the car and the weather's fine. As I pump the gas, a man in his black Ford F-150 yells out his window about my body. I actually can't remember what it was. Nice tits. Nice ass. Something I've been hearing my whole life, except sometimes it's not nice tits, it's big ass, or something a bit more cruel. I pretend not to hear him. I pretend my sunglasses hide my whole body. Right then, a man with black hair, who could be an uncle of mine, pulls by in his truck and nods. He's towing a trailer that's painted gray with white letters. The letters read, Sacred Objects. I imagine a trailer full of Las Virgenes de Guadalupe, concrete, marble, or wood, all wobbly from their travels. All of these female statues hidden together in this secret shadowed spot on the way to find a place where they'll be safe, even worship, or at the very least, allowed to live in light. Wife. I'm not yet comfortable with the word. It's short, clean whoosh that sounds like life. At dinner last night, my single girls said in admonition, it's not wife approved. About a friend's upcoming trip, their eyes rolled up and over and out of their pretty young heads. Wife. Why does it sound like a job? I want a wife, the famous feminist wrote, a wife who will keep my clothes clean, ironed, mended, replaced when need be. A word that could be made easily into maid. A wife that does, fixes, soothes, honors, obeys. Housewife, fishwife, bad wife, good wife. What's a word for someone who stares long into the morning, unable to even fix tea some days, the kettle steaming over, loud like a train whistle. She who cries in the morning, she who tears a hole in the earth and cannot stop grieving, the one you want to love you, but often isn't good at even that, the one who doesn't want to be diminished by how much she wants to be yours. From the ash inside the bone. Right when all I want to do is tell you a story, the way wingosh, is that the word, the name for sweetgrass that Kimmerer gives, have settled into the middle raised bed. The way I greet them in the morning, sometimes run my fingers through them like a child's hair. Right when I wanted to tell you a good thing, a stone to hold and rub in the pocket like skin. Right then, the sickness comes again. I want to write of the body as desirous, reedy, fine on the tongue, on the thigh, but my blood's got the spins again. Twice today, the world went bonkers. Crack, Corinne, and I come up all clown and out of whack. My body can't be trusted. MRI says my brain's hunky-dory, so it's just these bouts sometimes. The ground rises straight up, or I'm trying to walk on water, except it's not water, it's land, and it's moving when it should be something to count on. a field of something green and steady. Sleep is familiar, though the birds are starting earlier and earlier, and I keep dreaming that the sky is turning to ash, or that I'm falling through the clouds, tops of pine trees and oceans below. What does Lorca say? Compadre, quiero cambiar mi caballo por su casa. Friend, I want to trade this horse of illness for your house that praises the throat. I'll settle for these words you gave me, sweet smoke, and I'll plant them into my chest so I can take this circling spell and light it on fire. Thank you all very much for such a wonderful reading. Ada Limón is just so connected to everything. Her nerves are connected to the trains, to the man who's talking about her child when she's at that time feeling a little bit empty with not a child, and what she has to put up with, and then the vertigo that she's going through. But she's just a marvelous poet. Let's each one of us say a little bit about the reading, the poetry. Start with Corinne, then Helen, and Kay. Corinne?
Well, I just had the feeling that she must think of poetry all day long, because she can make the most ordinary event or what she is seeing a poem. And we were going along in such a joyful way, really seeing all these ordinary circumstances being so happy. And then, yes, Kay read that poem, Mastering. And I thought, I mean, that was, I think maybe it hit so hard because I was, and I guess we all were in quite a good mood from all her poems. And here she met this old friend, and wasn't it wonderful? And she was so pleased to be with him. It's just a nice, friendly chat. Well, then, of course, that was such an interesting story, because I know that has been a problem for some people. They can't, they want to have a baby. They can't do it. And then to get in a situation like that, I found that was extremely moving. It was. Anyway.
Helen?
Well, I can see why Ada Limón is our poet laureate. These are beautiful. These are wonderful poems. And here she is writing the carrying with a vertigo, experiencing vertigo and a chronic illness.
Yeah.
So it is like the intensity of her poems comes not just from her artistic nature, but out of her attempt to rise above this that she has been asked to bear, a very bad physical condition, and therefore it is so emotional. I loved the one about the flag, the song and the flag, because I felt her intense patriotism in that song, in that poem. And of course her love for nature and for animals and for she's amazing. Thank you for asking me to read her. I enjoyed it so much.
Hey.
Yeah, I felt the same way, of course. And I was kind of amazed at the emotion of that poem, Corinne, that you were speaking about, and the anger and also the humiliation and I mean, she's so strong and she's so unafraid with her words. I was very taken by many of the poems. I just love her.
And then what Helen was talking about too, she ends that poem something like, in an endless cave, the song that says, "My bones are your bones," and isn't that enough? I mean, we're all connected with the tragic and the joyful times that America has been through. And then also, the one I love too was the one about, well, all of them I love, but about her mother, wanting her to come through on her body to be unscathed. So, you ladies are just the best readers there are. You just move me so deeply, and you see so much in the poetry, and you bring it to life. And I just feel the emotionality all the way through this. And they're all serious subjects that she's talking about. And so thank you very much. And, before we end,
I would like to say one little thing. It was wonderful to hear you also to read. I haven't heard you in a while.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's mutual, obviously. I just want to bring up, or actually tell our viewers that next week, Bob Beecher, Courtney Bailey, Sharon Seifert, Corinne Conley will read their favorite poems. And that's our show for today. Allegra, Jennifer, here we are back here. So thank you very much, all of you. And thank you, Jennifer.